Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Xbox the Box, an Xbox podcast. My name is PotatoChief, and I'm with my good friend Alice. Hi, Alice. How you doing?
Hi, and this time, Chief is the one recording, so it's not going to be a review, but it's not going to be a lot we can celebrate today. So I think it's just us two for today. Yeah.
It's a more basic. I tend to go for a more basic style. Like, you like to switch between different camera views and add like videos and stuff, whereas I kind of just like to stick to the two cameras and a little bit of text in the middle. So yeah, it might be a bit different if you're new to the channel. This might be a bit different, but it's how we used to record it. So it's kind of a throwback. I got Tetris behind me as well, which is nice.
It's basically a Thursday throwback anyway, because it's coming out on Thursday. But that is unless if you catch it on the podcast services, because that's a day early.
Yeah, if you catch it early on an audio podcast, if you listen to the audio podcast, hello audio listeners, you won't notice any difference. It'll be exactly the same for you. But video listeners, it might be a little bit different, but not too much, probably. Not that noticeable, because we've got the same overlay and everything. And I want to thank
but earlier this week, we celebrated Pancake Day on the Tuesday. And it's like the Pancake Day, Pancake Day. I love Pancake Day. We even got a short that contains the music video. But if you check the description, you should be able to find the video link that leads to the music used, which is in the Maid Marian and the Merry Men of some sort.
Okay. I have no idea.
Well, they just came out in the early 90s, so you may have not remembered it. But it's just basically the anthem for Pancake Day almost, because it's sung by Daniel Jules or some sort, the cat from Red Dwarf.
Oh yes, I love Red Dwarf. I was going to say, so I was going to thank the video watchers, people who watch on YouTube. We hit 69 subscribers. Very nice. Thank you guys for subscribing. We really appreciate it. Nice.
Well, 69. It's a bit too late to say that because it's now like 71. But to the 69th listener,
it's not as nice.
Thank you.
If you're the 69th subscriber, nice. very, very nice. We appreciate it. Our channel's starting to grow quite nicely, which I really, really appreciate. We really thank you for that. Thank you for subscribing. It means a lot. And we're still trying to add stuff to the channel and grow. We're still experimenting with content. You were talking about naughty stuff. I was going to mention that in our video about Metroid, we did our Metroid Prime spin-off episode, Outside the Box. Someone said that this is the first time they've ever heard it called a Halo killer. And that makes me realise how old we are. We're both. It was a Halo killer because it came out just after Halo, and now he goes, "What do you mean a Halo killer?" I was like, "Oh, you have to be there. It's very early noughties."
But who said that to you? Did they say it directly to you? Because I haven't heard those kind of comments like that.
It was in the comments of the episode. I can't remember the name of the user. Sorry, it was in the comments of the episode. It's just, so this is the first time I've ever heard. It's the first time I've ever heard Metroid called a Halo killer. It's like, yeah, well, you have to, it's like I said, we're just old. It's kind of something we it was back in the day.
We're still young. We haven't even entered the midlife crisis because of our increased life expectancy to about 80.
Yeah, we'll see if I'm going to make it to 80. I doubt I'm going to make it to 80, but we will see. On that note,
never stop believing, though. But speaking of which,
stop believing.
35 years ago, Red Dwarf came out on TV, and I've been watching by coincidence because Red Dwarf, the first episode, was filmed in 1987. But if I can bring up the first episode, apologies, I haven't been like the most prepared here, but it came out on 15th of February, 1988, which is exactly like about a week ago. You can now watch it on like UK TV Play now, or even like on Sky. But yeah, I've just been checking it out and been watching the episodes, and yeah, I've just been thinking about it because the Red Dwarf has got more series in like about 2 decades after season 8 or some sort.
Yeah. I know I need to go back and watch some of the newer stuff. I saw like a couple of the one-off ones, but I need to go back and watch it. Like I watched the one that was like a kind of like a Blade. It was like a newish, and it was like Blade Runner. A lot of references to Blade Runner in it.
Yeah, that's a Back to Earth special. But
Yeah,
since then,
I saw that one. That was that was the last one I watched. I haven't watched any of the newer stuff. I need to go back and watch some Red Dwarf. I like Red Dwarf. It's been a while.
But we can agree that seasons 4 to 6 are like the best.
Okay, yeah.
But-
the originals for sure.
But the season 1 is like really special because it just kind of touches on the canon and like experimental ideas. But it's true that every series they release, it gets better and better.
Yeah. If you're a fan of sci-fi, I recommend Red Dwarf. If you like Starfield or anything like that, just to bring it back to bring it back to the Xbox. If you're excited for Starfield, maybe you should watch Red Dwarf. Get you in the mood. So, so should we go on to what we've been playing? I guess that's what you've been playing, like, in a way. It's what you've been watching, I suppose. Have you been playing anything at all?
Well, you said to me that Atomic Heart is like something that you've only played, right?
Only a little bit. I haven't played much of it, but yeah, Atomic Heart. Yeah. Have you touched on it a little bit? Have you played a little bit of it?
I have actually. I literally did this at the last minute, but that's only it came out this week. Because Atomic Heart is a hefty download. It's like I haven't like got around to installing it because I was in between places, but I was able to like I would otherwise like download the game and like you just download the game which is like 70 or 80 gigabytes and then you just put it on and then you realize there's like a 60 gigabyte update.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. So the day it came out, I played it for 2 hours. It was 87 gig download. And then the next day I was like, oh, I'm going to go back and play some more. And then it was like, 67 gig download. Can't play it now. So literally I spent the night playing Vampire Survivors again. And then I managed to play a little bit this morning because the update is finally downloaded. So I've played about 3 or 4 hours of it, give or take.
I just like streamed it.
That's a good idea. I should have done that. My internet's not good enough to do it. I can't go on your internet.
Well, I was actually in a different place which has faster internet, so I was able to stream it. It's a bit, well, kind of like bugs around and I got thrown out of the game once, but I was able to get on with it and did some streaming. So I done it for like about 1 hour, so that's the most I can play.
Bad. Did you get to it all going to shit? all going, like,
yes.
Like it's all nice and shiny to begin with, and then it kind of all falls apart very quickly, which I appreciate.
Yeah,
it's very
because
Bioshock in that way.
I know it's for my sins, but I've certainly played through it, and I'm like, that's definitely not going to be the game of the year for sure. Like, I started the game, it already introduces you to the lavish world, and it just introduces to the alternative history where Soviets won all the wars and became the next United States of some sort, and they have floating cities in the air. Yeah. So it's just like trying to be Metropolis, but it's more like Bioshock. So you just go around the city. You just go around the city and you just get introduced to all the stuff, and then you just go through lots of information. And it's like the walking simulator. You then like go into the building, and all you do there is just like you take the elevator just to get a key from the twins, and that's it. You just walk out of the building, get in the car, and then you fly out into the sky. I think it's the part where you fly around the ground, and you just fly down, and then you somehow got attacked by robots, and that's where the game could have began. It's like 13 minutes of an introduction with tiny amount of tutorials, and it's just like, oh gosh, can we just like go in and kill robots now?
I liked the beginning. I thought the beginning was really rad. I was like, this place looks gorgeous and beautiful. I thought it was really cool. I know it was a very walking simulator, but yeah. Maybe on a second playthrough I'll be annoyed about it if I go back to it, but I quite enjoyed it for what it was. It was only like I say, it was only like 15 minutes. I was a bit confused because I got up to the twins and I was like, now where do I go? Oh, I'm gonna go back in the lift. Okay, I just stood there for like a minute, like where am I going to go now? But no, I really like the setting. I think the setting of Atomic Heart, I love it. I think the alternative history, I think is really cool. I would say that's like an E plus, 10 out of 10. Just a shame the rest of it kind of drags it down a bit. As I said, it's not going to be Game of the Year, that's for sure. But I think the character is a bit obnoxious, and the world and the gameplay's not like very polished. It's okay. I haven't really had any like major technical issues or anything yet, which is good. Have you got to the fridge yet?
Yes, and that's when I stopped playing for the night.
The fridge is a bit much. Just gonna leave it at that. It's a bit much. It was like, okay, fridge, calm down.
Yeah, so if I were to discuss about how I played it, like apart from the intro, as soon as I got down, I just like walked around the countryside, and then it's like, oh, there's robots attacking, and there's a foul-mouthed gran like picking up a weapon and just killing them.
Funny.
And then you just like pick up an elevator, go down, and like, oh gosh, this place is so dark. And then you just like go around, get a valve and bits like that. But the checkpoints is kind of a bit annoying because it was like, oh, you go to this safe room so you can save the game.
Yeah.
And then I just picked up some of the stuff, and then you hold down the RB button to like try to gather as much bits from the. I think it was from the drawers and everything in that room. I was like, oh, I got everything. But as soon as it came out, and then I was like, tried to kill robots with an axe. And then when I went to the toilets, I just went in, and then suddenly I was attacked from the side, and it's like got plummeted to death. They're like, ugh. But then
one is just hiding in the toilet, and he just jumped out at you after you've been in there for a minute. I thought that was quite funny because I kind of knew it was coming. I was like, there's gonna be one in there, and it literally happened. Like, okay, fair enough.
I know one of the teachers at University of Wales Newport would absolutely hate that because he's not a fan of toilets.
Toilets in video games are like the worst.
Yeah.
They're very scary. It's just like I remember playing like when I was playing this game at the beginning. I mean, I guess this will be our preview for Atomic Heart because we're going to go into more detail, but might as well just talk about it now.
I need to finish actually. When I get killed, I respawn at that safe room, and I have to collect all the items in the cupboards again.
Oh no!
So then I just went through, and I just like going through, and then there's a huge room there. But as soon as I came down, I was like meet up with another character. It's like, oh, it's nice to meet a decent human being for once, a female doctor, so it's great. Because I kind of prefer her than the twins, to be honest. But then when I just get chucked out, Robot comes in and I go in this boss fight, and it's a bit of a pain. And then when I get killed, it's like, oh gosh, don't tell me I have to respawn all the way back and to do all this again. And then suddenly I go into this boss fight, and I was like, oh, I can still do that, but it's a bit of a pain in the butt.
Yeah. The save rooms are a bit like a throwback, aren't they? I prefer if I could just save it whenever I wanted and didn't have to go to a safe room. That's kind of annoying. Apparently this game becomes an open world game after about 5 hours. I would like to just get to that part, please.
5 hours?
Apparently, yeah. It takes about 5 hours to get to the open world stuff, apparently. But then it's supposed to be as like...
Why?
I don't know. That's so many little things. If they just changed those, it would be a better game. It's so many little things that get slightly wrong, and it's like, ugh. I want to like it more. I really enjoyed it for what it is, but it's not the best game. It's BioShock. It's like a slightly not as good BioShock, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. And also, people are comparing it to Wolfenstein as well.
Yeah, people who are giving it like a 6 out of 10 and stuff. I think that's a bit harsh. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's a decent game. I think it's like
I would be considering that because you get like 30 minutes of intro. You go through this some like basic parts, and then you'll mostly be using your axe, and you haven't got access to your weapons straight away. and I'm hearing that it takes 5 more hours for you to get through all those corridor sections over to the open world, and it's just like let's imagine this. You know the Halo game, Master Chief wakes up, you go around the room, go through tutorials, and then you go through the whole stage where you fight the Covenant, and once you get out of it, you go into Halo, which is one of the biggest levels in the game, and we love it.
Yeah.
Atomic Heart makes it look like you're just going through a long intro, then you just go through the Pillar Autumn, only you do this for like 5 hours, and then you get to Halo, which is an open world section, and that's how much you spend into this game. It's a very slow beginning, and I only spent about an hour into this, and I have yet to try to get the whole gist of things there. But yeah, as you said about the writing, people are comparing it to Duke Nukem, but I think it's just the characters are being more rude and obnoxious, as you said, and
he's a bit whiny.
I just don't think,
honestly, everything's bad. It's like, you're just gonna go this way, and he goes, "Hey, fuck you, buddy. I don't want to listen to you, glove." Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what? Just why are you being an ass? Just go. Why? Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the main character. Was it P3? I think his name is.
Yes.
Yeah, I also was going to mention that you said you met the doctor woman. He goes, "What is your name?" And I swear she doesn't say what her name is. And then the next minute he's like, "Her name is this." It's like, how does he know her name? Did I miss that? I don't know. It felt like he just learned her name without actually her telling him her name, which is really confusing and weird. Inconsistent. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I misheard it or something. Yeah, I am enjoying it. I think it's I've gone from Metroid Prime to this, so I just beat Metroid Prime remastered, which is a first-person adventure, go through the world trying to figure out stuff. So it's a similar type of game. Metroid does it way better, and it's 20 years old. So that pretty much sums it up, doesn't it? A 20-year-old game kind of does it much better, much more higher quality.
So how did you find
Metroid?
But how did you find Metroid Prime? Did you really enjoy it?
I loved it. 10 out of 10. It's still 10 out of 10. It's still a masterpiece. There's some bits of it that are like, oh, that's a bit annoying. Basically, to beat the game, you have to collect 12 different artifacts, which is essentially almost like Easter eggs. So some of them are I had to look up. It's oh, you need to shoot a rocket at this building to make it fall over, so you can go underneath it to get this part. So you would never ever figure this out on your own. I don't know how people did back in the day.
I only used the guide to collect all the web missiles and the health packs, but I think it's just
I only use the guide for the Chozo things at the end, which is what you need to get to the end of the game.
Well,
and also the final boss is a bit obtuse.
Yeah. Well, I think I have to say that if you were to rely on your scanner and you keep using it, because you need to scan some of the enemies, and there's some missable enemies that if you miss out on scanning them, you won't unlock extras. So if you've been relying on the scanner every time you enter the new area, then you're more likely to pick up lots of the artifacts.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, the Chozo artifacts, they're really well hidden. A lot of them, I'm like, how the hell were you meant to figure that out? When I've gone through the guides to do because I had to do the Chozo artifacts by using guides. That was the only time I used the guide. I tried not to use the guide until I really needed to, because I wanted to beat it on my own. And then I got to that point where I was what do I have to do now? Oh, I have to collect 12 really hidden things so I can finish the game. I'm like, okay. Some of the boss fights I found really frustrating. But apart from that, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good game, really well balanced. And then I go and play Atomic Heart, which is not as balanced, not as good. As there's a bit of a step down from Metroid Prime. You're going from one first-person shooter exploring type game to another, and it's not quite as good. I think Atomic Heart, it depends how much you like the world, I guess. I guess you're not as enthralled with the world as I am. I really find the alternative history Russia. I'm like, this is really cool. The opening section, I was like, I really dug it. And you're like, This is boring. I want to shoot things. And I'm like, ooh, shiny. Look at that shiny thing over there. Ooh,
Well,
I'm flying over cities. Ooh, that's cool.
I would say the world building is actually very good, and I appreciate that. It's one of the highlights of it, and it's also an alternative reality Russia, which is also gets the points too. But coincidentally, because Mick Gordon is like composed music for it.
Yes, the guy from Doom,
He
right?
also composed music for the Strider remake, like about 10 years ago, which is also set in Russia and involves a ninja like using his sword to just like through enemies.
Well, there you go. No Strider. That's good too. Yes, this is our early preview, hands-on thing. It's not like an official review or anything. This is like our first like really opening thoughts of the game. I think it's okay. I'm not going to give it a score yet, but so far I would say it's like, it's on Game Pass. If you have Game Pass, it might be worth trying out. You see how you feel about it yourself. I would recommend it. I would recommend paying £70 for it though. So if you don't have Game Pass, I would wait for it to go down in price before buying it. If that would be my recommendation. I think it's if you're interested in the setting, that might be enough for you to keep you playing. If you're not interested in the setting, that's probably the best part. And if you're not interested in that, you're gonna not like the game, honestly, because that's the best bit is the setting. So
I think the Xbox has been very generous for the sales because it doesn't take long for Far Cry 6 and Scarlet Nexus to be discounted. So you might be able to find Atomic Heart in the sales not long after the game's release. But it depends because given the 3-star reviews in the moment and like how people are giving mixed reactions to it, I don't know if it's going to come like almost as soon as like when Sonic Frontiers has been like discounted. So that's
maybe.
Yeah. Who
knows? It's very I'm not. I as I said, I recommend waiting for a sale. Usually with Game Pass games, they usually go on sale quite a while. You can get a discount if you have Game Pass as well. But obviously, if you have Game Pass, just put on Game Pass. So I did it.
Well, to me, I would say that yes, the setting is what is a good selling point. But I just think like it just tries too hard to like convince people to play the game. And what you basically get is pretty much like a more rigid version of Bioshock. And I don't think it actually warrants the full price for it. No. But it's pretty. It's like has a fun part of it. But I think it's just kind of like gives us some kind of edgelord kind of vibes with it. But then again, I think it's just aesthetic. It's just what really makes it good. But I think the best part is to do mainly to do with the dialogue, because dialogue's not that great.
Dialogue's not good, no. The dialogue's pretty awful. I was going to mention, I like the animations they got as well. Like when you're like going through like options and stuff, you'll have like, it reminds me of like Fallout and stuff. Where you have like cartoony drawings of like the robots. Also, the robots are really spooky. They creep me out. They like got the mustaches, and they don't flinch or anything. They just walk straight at you. That freaks the crap out of me. It really scares me. I'm like, oh, leave me alone. Just like they don't flinch or anything. They just literally like they are robots, aren't they? And they just like it's just the unwavering staring at you, like gonna kill you. That's terrifying. Yeah. I think some of this game is fantastic. Some of it's not. It's very annoying that it's like very hit and miss in a lot of places. I'm enjoying it for what it is.
Well, you mentioned about the Fallout style animations. I think it's more like a mix between Cuphead and Fallout in that sense. But it's actually a step up from the Fallout because it actually like does the animations very well, and I like it too. So, and also when you get killed, you get this animation of how you get killed by something, and that includes the twins as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite funny as well. Yeah, I agree. The animation there is really funny. Also, I feel like it's a bit abrupt as well. Like the as you said, it's very slow at the beginning where you like just it's like a walking simulator, and then literally out of nowhere, it's just everything's chaos. It's like literally like a switch. Like it happens like instantaneously. I'm like, whoa, wait, hang on. What's going on? It's like the world is perfect, and then 2 seconds later, and now everyone's dead. It's like, oh, what? What happened there? I'm very confused. It's like so instantaneous. My dog decided to roll over and pull the plugs out of the microphone, which is so annoying. Oh, man.
Hey, stop dogging to be about.
Stop being a dog. She didn't do it on purpose, but you know. Yeah, I was having a proper rant then. Oh, well. I'll probably remember later.
So what's the early scores for, like, Atomic Heart in the moment? So...
Well, from there, or in general?
If you were to be asked to give a score for Atomic Heart now, how would you rate it?
7 out of 10, I would say, so far.
I'm going to be inclined to give it a 7 out of 10 because I'm going to feel as if the game is going to get better over time. But I don't really see this getting an 8 out of 10 anytime soon. And I think 6 out of 10 is, well... I think it will be based on like only just the first hour, but for the whole game, I think the 7 would have been more fair, I would say.
Yeah, we'll have to wait until we hit the open world section, see if that's any good. Yeah. I forgot, it's so annoying that I forgot what I was saying now. That's really thrown me and it's really annoyed me, but it's okay. Shall we move on to the news? We've been talking half hour about this, so got quite a few things to get through, so... let's start off with
I would
Xbox
say is a
fans. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, I would say is a bit atomic, really.
So we started off. The news with Xbox fans have been tracking Sony's planes. I don't know much about this. It's a bit of a strange one, but I mean, I think I heard a little bit about this. People were assuming that Sony has been speaking to Microsoft because they've been following where Sony's been flying, right?
Yes.
That's what this story is about.
Now, the news piece there, like, according to this article, that fans have been, like, going through this deal, and now they're just tracking down the private jets that is owned by Sony. So they're monitoring the flights so they can get to know where the places where the executives from both Sony and Microsoft are meeting up over this deal. So therefore, I think it's just they checking the private jets flying around, and so far it's just like knowing if whether it's happening or not. Then this is a bit of evidence. Say Sony executives flew from London to Seattle in a Falcon 8X on February the 6th, presumably to negotiate Call of Duty license with Microsoft's deal.
I mean, I'm going to jump a couple of stories ahead because this kind of ties in with it. Whoa, I've lost. Where's my story? Yeah, so Microsoft signed a 10-year deal with Nintendo and with nVidia, and they also they had a presentation in the public, and they had a letter or had the business agreement for Sony, and they go, Sony, come sign it. So they obviously haven't resolved this yet, and they're still waiting for Sony to sign it. They literally had the letter with them in the meeting, so that happened yesterday. So they were saying to Sony, like, if you want to sign with us, if you want a 10-year deal, we're willing to sign. And they literally took the legal agreement with them to this conference, waiting for Sony to show up, and Sony never showed. So they showed showed this conference thing, but Nintendo and nVidia are both very happy with Xbox, and they're both working with Xbox. So it's interesting. Apparently,
and now Google is like another competitor who's being critical of the deal and thinking it has competition. And I think this follows the nVidia Inquisition deal or some sort.
Yeah. So the nVidia deal, they were saying like, so with the nVidia deal, every Xbox game that's on PC, which is every Xbox game, is going to be going on the nVidia Shield as well. So you should be. So if you're a nVidia person, you can play your Xbox games on the nVidia Shield, which is kind of crazy. NVIDIA online and all that. Call of Duty's coming is coming to Nintendo. There's some confusion. People were saying that all Xbox games are coming to Nintendo, and then they're like, no, just Call of Duty. So there's a bit of confusion, bit of a kerfuffle, but I would expect more Xbox games to come to Nintendo in the future as well. So the legal deal is 10 years for Call of Duty on Nintendo, 10 years for all Xbox games to come to nVidia, which is crazy. So they're diverse in their lineup, which is interesting. Sony,
I think
they're just waiting on Sony.
I think it's just my feelings that I don't think I've actually ever seen a lot of Call of Duty games apart from ones that came out for Nintendo Wii. So therefore, it's just like, interesting.
Yeah, they said it's going to be content parody for Call of Duty as well. It's going to be the same Call of Duty the Xbox and PlayStation get coming on Switch. How's that going to work? Like, unless it's like for the next, if it's like for the Switch 2 or the Super Switch, if there is one in the works, and maybe Xbox knows about that, or does it mean it's going to just cloud stream all the games to the Switch? That's the question.
That's a good question.
Be somehow nerfed down. I don't know how it's going to work. I just assumed
I would say
Call of Duty Mobile, but I guess not.
Well, no, it's because the Nintendo Switch is not a mobile device. But speaking of which, it could open the doors for more franchises to be on the Switch from Activision and Blizzard, and I think that's kind of nice to think about it. But as you mentioned, like streaming, because of Microsoft's deal with nVidia and Bits, it could mean it would improve the streaming services for like Xbox as well as the Nintendo Switch. So therefore, we might actually get better streaming stuff on both Xbox and the Switch.
I hope so. That'd be brilliant. Fingers crossed. I mean, that's the hope. Yeah, I don't. I don't really know what to say about that. I mean, it's good news for everyone, really. Like basically, Xbox is just trying to show that they are going to keep it competitive and they are going to keep Call of Duty available to everyone. They're just trying to prove that the Activision deal is going to be good for everyone in the long run, which I think, honestly, it is. But we will see what happens. Sony is still sat on their hands. They're still not moving. They're still not budging. They're like, nah, we're still not interested. Even after the 10-year deal of Call of Duty, they're still not interested, which is crazy to me. I feel like they should just like get over with now and just sign it and just I don't know. They're still fighting it, which is really annoying. Because I just want Call of Duty on Game Pass. God damn it! I want Diablo on Game Pass. I want to get all these games for like a fraction of the price. God damn it!
Yeah.
So that's breaking news at the moment. Yes, the news might be like by the time this podcast goes out, it might have changed completely. Even more stuff might have come out because this is still ongoing. So keep your eyes peeled. So should we move on to the next news article?
Yes.
My favorite thing of all time, the Tetris movie. My God, that looks so good. Taron Egerton, Elton John from Rocketman, or the guy from Kingsman. He's starring in a Tetris movie. It actually looks amazing. I'm like, if you haven't seen the trailer for it, it looks really good. I can't wait for it. I can't wait. It looks amazing.
The only thing is, it's coming out on the 31st of March, and it's coming to Apple Plus. So I'm like, I don't know if this is ever going to exist because it's so close to April Fool's. But the more I hear about it, the more I know that, oh gosh, this is literally happening.
Yeah, it can't be an April Fool's joke, surely. It looks really good, though. The trailer for it looks amazing. It's like, so Taron Egerton plays an American guy who's trying to get the rights for Tetris, and he has to get into the Soviet Union and get the guy who made Tetris and try and get him out to try and get the legal right for Tetris and get Tetris onto the Game Boy. So it looks really interesting. It looks really fascinating. It's a game. I love my game historian stuff. I love that stuff, and it sounds like a fascinating story and a fascinating movie. it almost looks like a James Bond kind of thing, which is kind of crazy when it's all about Tetris.
Yeah.
It looks amazing though.
It's kind of a bit
really
ridiculous,
good.
but
It's true though.
but it's also
It's a
a true story. So I think it just kind of like pays off a bit. But as I'm like subscribed to like Apple TV Plus in a moment, I can actually check it out when it comes out in April. But you can still get that offer on like the Xbox Game Pass perks. Like if you subscribe to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, you can sign up for Apple TV Plus, and you'll be able to catch it using the trial. So it's all good.
I'll do that. I will definitely do that actually because next month Ted Lasso season 3 comes out, so I want to watch that as well. So I want to binge watch Ted Lasso and also watch the Tetris movie, and I'll be very happy. And then I'll cancel my subscription then as soon as I watch both of those.
Yes.
So those are the two things I want to see for sure. So Tetris movie. If you haven't seen the trailer, go watch it. It's so good. I was like, this sounds stupid, and as soon as I watched the trailer, I'm like, this is the best film ever made. I completely switched my opinion on it. Like just for watching the first trailer, I can't wait for it. I'm very excited. So the next article, because we're going to try and get through this quite quickly because we have been talking for 40 minutes already, which is unprecedented.
Wild.
Tango Gameworks is happy working with Microsoft, which I would imagine they would say that because they they're not going to go, Microsoft sucks, man. We hate them. Boo. They're not going to say that, are they?
A few of the developers, especially Bethesda, has been having a good experience with Microsoft, and that's good.
Yeah.
Now, there's an interview that says that they've been having a good experience with it. So, it says here the acquisition that's with the game director John Hannes touched on what they're meant to work with Xbox, and it says here the acquisition happened, so it made it a bit easier for us because we are able to focus which platforms it will be released to help us polish the experience. Apart from that, it didn't have any effect on the development. In that sense, the experience of Xbox was positive because there was no interference in a good way. They were like, go ahead, what you think sounds cool.
Well, that sounds good to me. I mean, sorry, I don't want to say anything. Xbox are quite flexible when it comes to the smaller projects for sure. I think they've said this multiple times. It's not about fitting we need a shooter for this quarter or anything like that. They're quite open minded. They just want to have lots of content. So it's not about getting certain genres or certain things to fit certain. They're not trying to fit certain shapes and certain holes or anything. They just want to have consistent content coming to Game Pass. Really, that's pretty much their only goal.
Now, speaking of Hi-Fi Rush, released 4 hours ago, apparently the Phil Spencer, that when he took a trip to deal with the court hearings over the Activision Blizzard deal, he was traveling with the Xbox Series S and has a X screen attachment to the Xbox Series S, which you can see on the Twitter, that he got a Elite controller with the Xbox Series S in a hotel room and has a screen with it. So yeah, it's just kind of cool.
That's amazing. I love that. Gotta love Phil. Phil Spencer's the best.
But speaking of which, I don't know what the X screen attachment is like. I'll go find it, but it just reminds me of the PS1, which is 2 decades ago, and they have a LED attachment for it. Which when I bought a PS1, I found it in the computer exchange, and I found the LCD screen, so I got it hooked up to the PlayStation with Final Fantasy VII, but I haven't got around to touching it. But it's still very, very nice to have.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a portable console is always a fun idea. I want to get a Series S and a portable screen. That'd be some fun.
Well,
I don't know.
if you do actually get it, then the X screen, which you can actually get it from the special website, which is called upspecgaming.co.uk, and they have it on sale at the moment for £169. So you can get this, hook up with the Xbox Series S, and you can have it as the PS1 in 2023.
That's so weird, but yeah, I love portable gaming. Like that's like, I'm a massive fan of portable gaming. That's why I love Nintendo. And I just want to get a portable device I can play my Xbox games on. That's still a thing I'm wanting to get. The nVidia cloud and all that, they all sound cool, but they're like too expensive. Something like that, or like get a Steam Deck. I don't know. Still on the fence on that. Still trying to figure it out. How many? We've got a couple more stories to go through. So, a couple of release dates. So, Valheim is coming in March. I heard good things about Valheim. I've never played it, but I've heard good things about it. Yeah, it's like a survival game, right? You're a Viking. I have never played it.
Something like that.
Yeah, and then Lies of Peace coming out in August as well, which I'm really looking forward to. I was hoping to be a bit earlier than that, but that's fine.
You got it on a Fantasy Critic, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But for speaking of which, we do the quick update on it, and so far, there's only one of your games released, and you got 14 points because you got extra points for Forspoken. But so far, the PSV Trust, auto draft kind of guys, they got 56 points. So they got like -4 from the Atomic Heart, but they have the most amount of releases there, which kind of brings them forward. And they got 14 from the Hogwarts Legacy and 19 from the Dead Space remake. But they only lost points from the Atomic Heart and Forspoken. But as for me, I only have like 3 or 4 releases because Octopath Traveler is releasing in a few days, so I may get a bit of a boost. But I'm currently 3rd, and I got a huge deduction because I counterpicked Hogwarts Legacy when I should be counterpicking on Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah, probably that would be a better bet. I don't think Metroid Prime 4 is coming out this year now. We have Metroid Prime Remastered come out. I think that's...
And you got...
shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, that's right. But I've also made another bid, which should show up in about 3 days or something. And it's the Anton Blast. It was a warrior-like. Like, I don't know if you heard of Pizza Tower, but this is like a huge game. But there's another game called Anton Blast, which is like... It's a follow-up to the Anton Ball, which is like based on Wario and all the Mario games. Okay. Then there's like Anton Blast, which is basically like it's like a love letter to Wario Land 4. Only you have a guy with a hammer. It just like bounces around. And it just samples so much from the retro games. And it just makes it very good. I'll probably like share with you a link to Anton Blast. Because I think they had a successful Kickstarter. So...
I'll have to have a look at that at some point. Right, so let's have a little look. So that's pretty much all the news. Eliza P, as we said, is coming out August. That's like a Bloodborne, but with like Pinocchio backstory, which is interesting. Yeah, that's okay. I'll have to have a look at that at some point. So shall we move on to our topic of the show?
Yes.
Topic of the show. Topic of the show. I need to come up with a jingle for that.
What are we allowed to play?
Nothing. You have to boycott every game that's ever comes out ever.
Because
never play
everyone
anything.
are dicks.
So there you go.
I mean, so why are we? So yeah, whatever. But you're probably knowing why do we say that? That's because we are beginning to realise that some of the stuff that we might be having coming, we're not allowed to play it because it does have controversy involved, and we're told not to support the creators of them. So allow me to go through what's happening. Well, actually, more specifically, that this has even been brought up in PS We Trust, that Hogwarts Legacy came out, and apparently it turned into a huge flame wars between people who are transphobes or bigoted and those who actually do not want people to buy the game because of transphobia. So
Yeah.
apparently the author of the Harry Potter series has said some lot of things about like trans people and even said some outrageous things in the political wars. I don't want to say too much about it because at the moment she's going after people who actually said certain opinions, and somehow she tried to take them to court over libel issues, and she uses like slap laws for it. So I don't want to say too much about her, but she has been saying so much of this stuff that we don't feel particularly comfortable with Hogwarts Legacy coming out, which means it could like give her enough authorities to prove that whatever she says, it doesn't actually affect her platform for hate speech, and that's not great.
No. I mean, yeah, this is the problem we have. Like, so Hogwarts Legacy came out. I was content that we would just not discuss it and we'd just let it kind of just blow over. You know, like go to the Winchester, wait for it all to blow over kind of attitude. Because I knew it was going to be controversial. And then as soon as it's like, oh, finally, people are done talking about Hogwarts Legacy, now everyone's going, oh, Atomic Heart, it's made in Russia, we got to boycott it because the Russians and the Ukrainians are at war. It's like, oh, crap. Okay, we're gonna have to. So this, and then I feel like there'll be another game in a couple of weeks' time which we'll have to boycott. So I feel like we have to discuss this at some point. We can't just avoid this topic.
Yes,
unfortunately.
Yeah, that's why. As I need to explain, it's just becoming a bit ridiculous. We go on to that because there's a lot more to what lot more than what the meets the eye, in which it talks about like Hogwarts Legacy and how deep the controversy is. And there's even lots of questions and even people like going into reviews about Atomic Heart. Also, there's some like other games too, which we also need to discuss. So, but just to keep things a bit simple, we need to focus on Hogwarts Legacy first. Because the game was released and it had good review scores, and apparently people are buying the game. And apparently, if you were to play the game or you stream it, you're going to get a huge backlash from people because you're promoting Hogwarts Legacy. And it even comes to the argument suggesting you're being transphobic because you bought the game. And I think a lot of it is just like going over the top and trying to make accusations because they bought this game. And that's just as when where the real line's been drawn. And now it's just like, it just kind of goes too far.
Yes. The problem I find with this kind of stuff is where do you draw a line? Like you just said about drawing a line. It's like, I personally don't want to buy Hogwarts Legacy because I feel like the game looks pretty mid, to be honest. And then I'm also, you know, me and you are friends, and I feel like I don't want to support someone who's a transphobe. But now I'm like, I'm playing Atomic Heart. Am I a hypocrite now because I'm playing Atomic Heart and I wouldn't play Hogwarts Legacy? Because I boycotted Hogwarts Legacy, but I'm not boycotting Atomic Heart. I feel like I'm being a bit of a hypocrite here. But then I feel like it's a slippery slope. Like, there's always going to be something dodgy. So, do you boycott all Activision games because they treat their staff like crap? Do you boycott all Naughty Dog games because they had crunch? Do you boycott anything that comes from China or supports China? Like, do you boycott Blizzard because they supported the anti-China, the anti-Hong Kong stuff.
It's a bit complicated, really.
I guess it's just a rabbit hole. As soon as you start boycotting one thing, then it's like, am I going to boycott this as well? And then boycott this, and it's just like, ooh.
And eventually, you boycott
good people,
and then you just eventually go and discover there's a huge subreddit, and it's just like, oh, you're not allowed to buy Nestle products, and you need to support the water because
Yeah.
apparently they've been doing lots of shady things. So you're not really allowed to buy. You have to like boycott Nestle stuff, and I'm like, really, like. Is it really
Yeah.
that important to not buy anything Nestle? And then you're just thinking like, oh, there's other companies that provide food to drink, and turns out they've been in some like dodgy dealings with slave trade and all this, like bad working practices. And now you're just like not allowed to go for Amazon because they have poor working conditions, and now there's like people striking in it, and it just eventually spreads throughout the entire world, and only to realize that everything is really bad. Now, back to Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh yeah, the world sucks.
Yeah,
I
that's
also wanted
right.
is it right if I also want to mention as well that I have a YouTube channel that's dedicated to professional wrestling. WWE have got a deal with Saudi Arabia, so then I'm like, do I boycott the Saudi Arabia shows? Do I boycott the stuff because Saudi Arabia have got poor human rights tracking, pure human rights things, just like bloody hell. And then my favourite football team is Man United, and then mine became bought by Qatar, and Qatar also have poor human rights records. So it's like, do I boycott my favourite football team and stop watching football? And it's like, it's too much. Why is there so many shitty people in the world? Why? Why can't people be good people? I don't understand why. Why? Anyway, sorry. Hogwarts
That
Legacy,
reminds me
you...
of this. Yeah, it just reminds me that you said like, oh, I'm not allowed to support this because of what's happening. Oh, I just checked this, and it turns out, I can't support this because of those dodgy dealings. And it goes into this whole daisy chain of like, you try this stuff, and then turns out it's bad. And it just reminds me of that video by Video Game Donkey. I was a bit skeptical over it, but then I just realised like how much I totally get the joke, because he's Video Game Donkey is one of those YouTubers who like made some like really silly but very fun videos that just like makes a deadpan humor over games. So he was going to do the Forspoken one, and then turns out to be hosting, just talking all about Spider-Man 2 on like a PlayStation 2. But on this Hogwarts Legacy, he talked about like was it? Oh, I was going to talk about the gameplay for Hogwarts Legacy, and then I decided to play was it the High on Life? Oh, wait a minute! It turns out that this guy has been doing some bad sexual allegations, so I decided to play Overwatch 2. Oh, never mind. The company is actually bad, so I decided to play Last of Us Part 2. And apparently people are now treating me like Voldemort, so I decided to play. There's people now think I'm really bad because I've been playing Sonic games and causing some kind of life.
It just keeps going, doesn't it?
So
Yeah,
I think it's just.
This is the guy who made Sonic in jail for inside trading as well. Like, oh my god, what's going on? There's too many people. There's too many bad people. Bobby Kotick, come on. Like I could go on all day about things we should boycott. And I get a boycott because I totally understand it, because I kind of feel like when there's something really annoys me, I'm like, yeah, I'm not buying that. Like, but then it's like basically like J.K. Rowling's being completely transphobic, and then she's like, well, you're still going to buy my games, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, screw you. I'm not buying your games.
But just be careful what you say about her, because she might actually try to sue you for causing libel. Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, speaking of wowing, I really need to state my views, because in Hogwarts Legacy, I was skeptical. I was not comfortable about it. I don't really want to buy the game, but the game is actually interesting because it's actually it's finally the open world Harry Potter game where you get to visit Hogwarts in 18th century or 19th century. You just go around, learn magic, and go for the school year, and you get picked into the house of your choosing, and then somehow. I mean, then if I was to like play the game, it's just like, oh, if I play this game, it just means like, I'm going to be viewed as if I'm the one who tried it, and I may not be taken seriously for my views. And also, people may actually complain or rant at me because I have put this game on the Xbox profile, and that is despite I don't even plan to stream it too, because I don't want to end up promoting anything that's likely to give more attention to J.K. Rowling's Twitter. Like, if you see her Twitter profile, you'll be able to see what kind of post she's making, and I can guarantee you it's not all about Harry Potter.
No, it's unfortunate because I love the world of Harry Potter, and then this J.K. Rowling stuff is really annoying. It's really like ruined it for me, and it's like, but then detaching art from the artist is very difficult. I don't know.
Exactly, because I think it's a good idea when you have to like separate the art from the artist. And it's even been explained in one of the books I got for Kickstarter, where it introduces to the authors. Like, you have the list of the authors you like to promote, and one of them is one Adal, that because of the children's books he made, I chosen him. And then in the book, it just says about whether you like his views or not, it's up to you whether you separate the art from the artist. And I think that's good advice. But at the same time, it's like, what could it possibly be that actually made really bad? And then it just points out to his more mature works that hasn't been talked about a lot. And then it turns out there's some like anti-Semitic probably prejudiced remarks from him in the past. And that's even when Steven Spielberg worked on BFG, and he even stated like how he chose this movie because he's like a Jew, and how he just takes things seriously when it comes to like anti-Semitism. So he just like has to like act carefully and convinces that he knows what he's doing is right. So I think he remembered in the documentary once, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he did definitely had this like, if I wasn't a Jew, then I'm not allowed to do the Holocaust movie. But I don't know, it's just kind of like some really bad stuff. And I know it's a very sensitive topic, because when it comes to like anything that is not bigoted or prejudiced, then it's like a very, very dangerous ground to tread on. And it's just almost as if you have to be really careful. And I just feel this is what is going to, like, I predict, like, with any trans people who get to work directly with something like the Harry Potter, for instance, they get to like try to like evaluate on how they feel about it, because Shakespeare has made Merchant of Venice that actually talks about a like mocking a Jew on this play, and there's somehow like caused controversy. Yet it became one of the best plays there. There's Lovecraft, H.P. Lovecraft has got racism and some bigoted stuff in some of his short stories, but is still celebrated years later. And there's even more authors, especially the author for Ender's Game, and deals with homophobia in like the sequel. But people just don't really talk enough about these. It's just that people have like seen J.K. Rowling's been spouting those harmful tweets, and they create this huge fuss about it, and yet they seem to be not really aware of other controversial authors, and yet they're still celebrated. So my imagination is that in the next 30 years, Harry Potter will be normalized. It'll be enjoyed like a franchise. It's just that transphobia is likely to affect J.K. Rowling for as her legacy, but it means that Harry Potter is just like, it's going to be enjoyed normally, and people don't seem to worry too much about it. It's just at the moment that it's really hard to separate the art from the artist, because you have J.K. Rowling, who's actually benefiting from royalties and a reputation. But I think this is not what it's all about. What's really the huge problem is that boycotting Hogwarts Legacy is not always going to work. I don't really tell people not to buy the game, because it's up to them if they want to play the game. So if you like to play Hogwarts Legacy and you own it, I don't have a problem with that. You can play this as much as you like, but it doesn't mean your views are not going to be taken seriously, and you may not be taken seriously as a trans ally. I don't mind about it, but I think there's more problem of how people view your decision making. Because when it comes to controversial stuff, when you buy them, there's always going to be consequences and criticisms that fall your way because you decided to buy the game that's likely to platform on any controversies and people will get away with it. So therefore, if you get Hogwarts Legacy, like, there's no sin in doing it. Like, make a decision for yourself. I don't mind, but just be careful that you're always that your actions is always going to attract consequences, even though that I don't think it's going to make a huge difference to you. But I think it's certainly what some people may mind over, and that's something you're always going to get. But I don't really blame you if you somehow like make a decision though.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to go into a little bit with this as well. So it's like also almost like kind of like a counterpoint a little bit, but I totally agree with everything you just said. Basically, if you remember, a couple of podcasts ago, about 20 podcasts ago, we had the woman who voice acted Bayonetta coming out saying that she was underpaid and underappreciated and all this stuff. And then I went, I'm not buying Bayonetta 3 because they mistreated her voice actress. Do you remember that? And then it turns out that she was full of shit and actually it's all a lie. So it was like, but then I feel impassioned to boycott stuff because of stuff like that. And then sometimes it doesn't work out. And then it's like, also when you were talking about Roald Dahl, as I thought you were going to mention this because he was in the news last week. That they're changing. Roald Dahl was in the news because they're removing words like fat, bold, stupid, and stuff from the removing offensive words from kids' books, from Roald Dahl books, like bold and fat and stupid and stuff like that, which is ridiculous. I don't understand that. So it's like it's like a balance, isn't it? Because obviously we don't want transphobia, we don't want that, we don't want racism, we don't want all that. But then also on the other hand, do we want everything to be censored? And then literally everything being bland and and like nothing's kind of different. Like everything's super safe. And then it's like, where'd you go? It's like it's a hard balance, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's why I thought you were going to mention the Roald Dahl being censoring words like bold and fat, which is ridiculous because I'm fat. I'm not. If you use the word fat, I'm not going to call into a ball and cry. It's like, I said fat.
Well, in fact, the recently is that Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, he'd taken it so seriously that he joins the criticism of changes to these books, but he doesn't like deal with this Harry Potter shenanigans or even like transphobic stuff. He's more interested to allow the blocking of the Scottish self-ID laws in like Scotland, and it's just like, well, not so much about the minorities, but you seem to like care so much when there's changes to the one adult books, but then I don't really care about the censorship. All I care is that it's up to people's decision whether they would separate the art from the author. And yet, Ronald Dahl is actually like really celebrated by Mr. Kipling, but I still buy Mr. Kipling cakes or anything that has Ronald Dahl stuff on it because the thing is, these are the books I grew up with, and I think it's really great. But it doesn't mean that I support the author that much because, in fact, he died like over a few decades ago.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a Hufflepuff, and I've been to the Harry Potter studios, and I've watched all the films, but I still think that J.K. Rowling's a piece of shit, and she's I don't like what she's been saying about trans people. I think it's horrible and disgusting.
Well, you brought up about you've been to the studio and stuff like that. I've been to the studio before I even started the transition, or even when J.K. Rowling's revealed her true colours. I even took tests to know that I'm actually part of Ravenclaw, and I think it's like really good stuff. Also, I feel a bit more nostalgic about the Harry Potter universe. That is something that I grew up with, but it's not something that I really hate the author of these works. It's just something that makes me uncomfortable because I just feel like whenever I celebrate about it, does this mean like I'm platforming J.K. Rowling as well? So it's it's just not
Yeah.
so great. But anyway, it's not just
I was
about
gonna
the
ask you a question. Oh, go on.
well, it's
I
not
was gonna
just
ask you a
about the
question. If
yeah.
no, you go.
Go
You
on.
go. You say what you have to say.
Yeah, just answer me a question because it's talking about other
I,
controversies too.
I was. It's the same. It's the same. It's the same thing. I was going to say if Hogwarts Legacy was on Game Pass, would you have played it or tried it, or would you have not, or would you have just left it? Because I feel like
I
the
would,
£70 paywall is a reason why a good reason why I wouldn't be interested in it anyway. But if it was on Game Pass, I think I might have tried it. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think I would. In fact, I would
Right.
prefer to try it on the Switch because it would not show up. Oh, it still shows up in the Nintendo profile. Oh, never mind. But
Yeah.
I just think if it's like really cheap, like if it's like 10 years later or the 20 years later when the bigots like focus on other things and trans issues is not no longer referenced by the media, then only then the Hogwarts Legacy is like should be okay to try. But then I don't know because at the moment I'm not like 100% comfortable. But anyway,
Yeah,
it's not just
that's
to do the
fair.
trans issues, which in this game it doesn't deal with a huge amount of them, and there's even a trans character in the game too, which is cool. But there's also but I think the real problem is that the plot of the game is where the goblins have been like doing the uprising, and it involves like people like trying to rally them into like attacking Hogwarts, and I'm like, oh gosh, that's crazy because goblin is like they're usually seen as those who work in banks, and they're not pleasant,
Yeah.
and people are like making links with them as if they're like compared to like Jews. But I know this is a bit ridiculous, but it's already causing controversy because it places goblins as antagonists, which kind of makes this harmful, like some kind of allegory about unions and even that. Same with like RWBY, however, that it's not so much like bigoted, but the only thing that's controversial about the plot is just kind of like talks about unions, where it did the union about hunters, and turns out the leader of them is a villain, and a terrible one of that. So it just kind of seems a bit suspicious when you have a plot that goes against unions.
Yeah.
But in Hogwarts Legacy, that when you have someone that's like has the similar traits as the Jews and making like something like racial stereotypes, it just kind of like makes it like more sus. But when Wisecrack looked through this plot, they then talked about so much about neoliberalism in Harry Potter, and like, okay, just trying to get away from it. But turns out they seem to make so much interesting points about the Harry Potter stuff and how the plot came to be, because Harry Potter is more of a based on the neoliberalism, because they try to like go through tradition and the routines, like how they try to hide magic from the world and do not want to mix it up with the real world, and then they just like try to deal with the status quo and hope to be able to make sure it doesn't have a lot of changes with it. And I think it's just what taps into it and what also goes into the game too. So I think for what there's lots of controversies there. I just think that transphobia isn't like a biggest talking subject in the game, because there's also like other controversies with it that shows that Hogwarts Legacy is just like not so great.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know. I'm really conflicted on it, honestly. As I said, I used to be a Harry Potter fan growing up, but it's like there's also the points that Xbox has less content than the PlayStation version. They've like took stuff out and like made it PlayStation exclusive, which is also it's not really a controversy. It's just it puts me off buying it on Xbox, honestly. I don't know. I'm not interested in it. I'm not.
Now we also go through the parts there. Like, I know there's a lot of controversies around, and we've been discussing so much about it this show. I know we may have like said stuff that's people are like meh, but I think what the bigger problem is that 2 years ago, like when I spoke to my parents about my family when we spoke about the J.K. Rowling, it's just like what she said is okay, and Phil is all right, but then they just said like, oh, the people who actually sent all these nasty messages are way worse. That now it just seems to apply to when like you have keyboard warriors go into it, where when people are like streaming this game on like internet, it's like we streamed the game on the Hogwarts Legacy, and apparently you're getting some like hateful comments, and even drove one of the streamers into tears. It's like it's just really getting too far, because it's not just about people who even like call them transphobic for saying about warning them about buying the game, and they seem to make strawman arguments that like they're just trying to say, oh, you buying this game will make you transphobic, or this game means you're a nasty person. But then these are just being fabricated as if a strawman argument, when all they're doing is just trying to remind people about when they buy this game and how they just likely to contribute to those controversies. But they're not really telling you to not buy the game because of those things. It's just basically that if you want to buy the game, that's fine, but just be careful of the consequences you may be contributing to. And yet, there's lots of people like calling them transphobic. Sorry, not transphobic. Calling them, give them insults or all those name calling because of them telling them to boycott the game. And I think they're just trying to make a strawman argument over it, and I just think it's ridiculous. But it also goes two ways, because you have people who actually goes after them. I know even a few people only a few people that I'm seeing on like Twitter, and even they just seem to make accusations over people like, oh, you want to buy the game makes you transphobic. There's even another certain someone where there's like, oh, if you just go support RWBY, it just means you're contributing to these practices. Someone came in and says like, everything is terrible anyway, right down to buying shoes and stuff like that. And mind you, it comes
True.
And then she said to them like, oh, does this mean you have to buy the game Hogwarts Legacy and when it actually makes you transphobic? And they're just like, it's just overstretching it. It just seems as if people are like trying to throw their anger towards others, and it just seems as if they're trying to bully them into like not buying the game, which leads to what the in PS3 Trust guys saying that, and I think it's very good. I recommend you listen to their podcast around Hogwarts Legacy, because I agree with lots of points there, and saying that it's really fine. It's okay for you to feel about Hogwarts Legacy, and if you want to buy the game, you try it out. The real problem is that you're not really supposed to attack people because of what they made the decision about supporting the game, and you should respect them for how you buy the game. And I think I agree, also, because I think the trouble is people should not really bully others for making an opinion. The only decisions they make for themselves is whether they feel comfortable buying the game.
Also, I feel like if you do buy the game, you are playing the game. It's that someone going, oh, you're a transphobe, swearing at you and bullying you. That's not going to convince you. That's just going to make you that's not going to change your opinion. Like, treating someone like crap, they're not going to go, oh, you know what? You've been really nasty to me, so I'm going to agree with everything you've just said. Like, that doesn't work. If you want to convince someone to not do something, you don't bully them. Like, that's just going to make them do the opposite. Like, you're just giving it, like, you're making it, like, if anything, you're, like, reinforcing their choice by being a bully. So don't bully people. It just doesn't make sense. It's a stupid...
Exactly.
It's a stupid... It doesn't make sense. It's
the
stupid.
And that reminds me that I should give them a strategy. Like, if you're going to tell people to boycott the game, well, it's okay. As long as you warn them, that's fine. Just as long as you don't try to put them in a guilt trip to do that. But that's not going to work, because boycotting does not work. But when you go attack people because they decide to either buy the game or not buy the game, that's going to raise the issue so much that it makes the game more popular. Like, if you're going to make a huge noise and just bring, like, say, like, try to vilify or say all the controversial things, then you just end up promoting the game because you're raising these issues up. And that's just how, like, the works by controversial people are now, like, getting more sales because people can't stop talking about those kind of works.
Exactly. I was going to say that that's very true. I feel like if there was no controversy around this game, I think this game would have just come and gone, and I don't think it would have sold that well. But the controversy is now like the highest selling game on like in Steam history and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. Like, it was breaking a load of records when it came out. I don't think anyone would even be talking about this game if it had no controversy, because it looks kind of mid. It looks meh. It looks alright. Looks like a 7 or 8 out of 10. It doesn't look like it's the next like God of War or like Starfield or like Breath of the Wild. Doesn't look like it's anything like that breathtaking. So I don't think anyone would be even talking about it if it wasn't for this controversy, to be perfectly honest. I think most people would have just gone over it.
Well, there's also another thing that I would state, that the surefire way of getting people to not buy the game is to make it don't run so well. Like, Hogwarts Legacy gets a high review score, and people think, oh, this game's great, so I'm going to buy that. And they don't really care about the controversy. If it's getting good review scores, they are most likely to get the game. But if they find the game's got like loads of bugs and lots of issues with it, then they're not likely to buy the game. And that's what they care more than the controversy. Like, Atomic Heart, like, at the moment, it's not so buggy, but the gameplay isn't that great. So some people may not buy it, but they don't. But then people are going to reviews on that game and say, like, this is pro-Russian, so don't buy the game to support Ukraine. Like, no. But I kept seeing reviews as saying, like, this game's got glitches, intro is slow, and stuff like that. And I think it just pops up more than people telling them to not buy the game to support Ukraine. It's like, okay. And you just pointed me to the tweet where someone is playing Atomic Heart and Stalker 2 and streaming them because they said that you shouldn't. Politics should not influence you to play those games, and I think that's a fair point.
Also, I was going to say as well, if we do reviews on this channel now. That's like a thing we want to do. I don't think ever in our reviews we'll ever go, we're giving this game less of a score or higher of a score because of a political standing or some kind of boycotting or whatever like that. Like, if we're going to review a game, we're going to review the game on its own merits. We're not going to... So basically, I'm not going to go... Atomic Heart, we're giving it a 5 out of 10 because it's pro-Russian and we're going to reduce the score by like 3 points. Like, we're never going to do that on this channel. We're going to try and review a game on its own merits, how good it is on its own.
100%.
Without the political subtext or anything behind it. So,
also, it comes out on the Game Pass, so technically it is related to what we're talking about. Because if Hogwarts Legacy came out on Game Pass, maybe we could review it, but I don't think we're likely to review it anyway. So we would be considered hypocrites with that. But I was also going to bring out the example where Cyberpunk 2077, and there's some like controversies where there's Poland and there's anti-LGBT, and that is despite that Project Red of some sort, they are putting like more trans-friendly stuff, but there's a lot of controversies around it, and it's like people are not likely to enjoy that. But as it turns out, this game is popular. It's actually very popular with trans people, even though it has like some gender identity controversies with it. It's still loved by many of trans people, and it's even being talked about this way. Because when I played just the first like 30 minutes of Cyberpunk 2077, 3 of my trans friends have actually like talked about it, and it's just as if it's still a relevant game. But I think that what drove many people off is not to do with the controversy. It's actually to do with the glitches and how the game wasn't that optimal on the consoles, and you just feel like you have to wait for the patch in order to get it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm still gonna go back and play some Cyberpunk. I've heard it's improved a lot since it released. Um, so, we've got one more segment to go after this, and we've about an
Well,
hour and a half into the
uh,
podcast. Is there anything else you wanted
that
to
uh,
talk about before we moved
Chief,
on? 'Cause-
Chief, we still have to talk about, because it's not just about Hogwarts Legacy. We also talk
no,
about
go ahead.
Atomic
I'm saying,
Heart, because
yeah.
Atomic Heart has also got some questions there. Which, if I follow this link here, Atomic Heart
Okay.
is also another controversial game too. So it says here there's some like concerns on how Mundfish, which is the developer of the game, there's some like glorification of Russian marketing, and there's like apparent origins of Mudfish as a Russian entity, as well as some investment by Russian companies, and there's
Right.
even like lots of things going on. Plus, there's a video that like lambasts this video up, and it's been talking about like how they used the twins to promote the game, and it's been complained about this like some sexualization for the robots and stuff like that. But I think it just seems like
Okay.
I think it's just trying to like raise the issue of how much it like promotes Russia and feel as if it's going against Ukraine. But then I think it's just trying to make a molehill out of the political, like all this stuff there, and it just seems like it's not. It's just kind of a bit out of hand. Even Mundfish just like went to the Twitter and said, "Guys, we have noted the questions surrounding where we at Mundfish stand. We want to assure you that Mundfish is a developer and studio, but a global team focused on an innovative game and is undeniably a pro-peace organisation against violence against people." Even Mick Gordon, who then made a statement, and he said he's going to like donate his fee towards helping out people out of Ukraine too. So it's not like the people working behind it. It's like it's not like going against. Is certainly like contributing to the war. They're actually going against it, and they are very, very aware of this war, and they would rather just be able to be supportive of all the people involved. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I agree, and then also I was like because we both played a bit of the game. The game doesn't come across to me like like a pro-Russia game. It's not like it doesn't feel like it's propaganda for like, oh wow, Russia's so cool, you know, it's the best place on earth. Like if you play the game, the place is like it's all going to shit. Everyone's dying and stuff. It's like this isn't a good look for Russia. It's not like going, ooh, you know what? I want to go Russia now because this game made it look really cool. It's like no, it doesn't. It's a apocalyptic. It's not a very positive take on the Russian government. So you know, it's not like I don't feel like it's a pro propaganda thing. If they've come out and said that they're pro peace, then I don't see what anyone's problem is. I mean, I know like people have to live, and some people live in Russia, and they don't necessarily support the Vladimir Putin. Like we're British. I can't stand the Tories, but they run the country. I can't control that. Like it's like I don't agree with anything that Rishi Sunak says, or Boris Johnson before him. So what like I like just because I'm British, I have to agree with everything that politicians say. I mean that's like it's not true, is it? I mean like honestly.
Exactly. You did bring this topic up, and in Russia, many people there do not agree with the war and are even like going against what Vladimir Putin is deciding for Russia. Also, there's some stuff going on. They say that soldiers have to like go into the war, and they're even being lied to about their successes there. And it's almost as if they've been manipulated to take part of the war, even though it just like has huge implications to what's happening. So it's just like as if like you don't really. It just even the Russian people is just don't really approve of this war, and it has dire consequences. So I think it's just almost as if we're not being fair if we're somehow criticizing anything that comes out of Russia. But
Also,
we are allowed to be able to like talk about the game in based on how well it performs, how well it plays. But if we're gonna like talk about political aspects of it, then it just kind of makes it a bit ridiculous too. Like, are we supposed to judge the game based on the political outlook? Because if we start to do that for everything we play or everything we buy, then we're going to end up constricting ourselves on how we do those things, and we're just not going to be able to talk about anything and try to run our boring lives, trying to avoid anything that gives terrible companies any money.
Exactly.
It's just now impossible. It's just like we're expected to grow potatoes and cook them. I know I don't want to belittle anyone who has any concerns, because this is entirely a decision on how you support them. We're just telling you that trying to be able to maintain a moral ground on how we be able to support the well-being of all these people is almost impossible, because every company or corporation you see, you're always going to have issues with it. Another example is the High on Life, which it's been talked about a lot during the last podcast episodes. You even did the impression of like Rick and Morty there.
I don't know, Rick. Morty. That's my whole Rick and Morty impression. Morty.
Well, at the moment, High on Life is controversial because the creator who made Rick and Morty there, if I can look up for the creator there.
Jason Rowland? Something like
yes.
that? Justin Rowland.
Yes, because he's being charged for domestic violence, and Adult Swim has cut ties with him, which means that means it kind of puts a question on High Life as a game. So unfortunately, this is like what happens there. I haven't had a chance to play it, but then again, it's just like the game's not like well received anyway. But that's even before this domestic violence cases came up, and we weren't even thinking about like High on Life, but now it just seems to be a bit too late, because now you just feel about the creator and you just seems to have this extra dimension of thinking whether you want to play the game or not.
I mean, it was the broke records for Game Pass, the highest third-party game in Game Pass history, downloads and plays. So a lot of people have played High on Life. A lot of people have tried it. So yeah, it is interesting to think that now it's under a lot of scrutiny. Like that's because like we're talking about boycotting things. It's like we're boycotting things that are coming forward, but then like stuff that's already come out, like we retrospectively go back and like not go back. Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't finished High on Life. It's still on my hard drive to finish. I've played about an hour or two into it. Do I go back and play it, or does that make me a hypocrite? I don't know. That's
And this brings me to another point, that Hogwarts Legacy is an open world Harry Potter game, and if it came out like a decade ago, then we may end up playing it because we're still in love with Harry Potter. If it came out during where the movies are coming out, then we get to still play it, and it is like revolutionary. It's just arrived a bit too late because of what J.K. Rowling has said online. And now people are having this extra dimension of thinking and knowing whether it is morally good to actually buy or play the game, when in retro aspect, it's not really, because it's down to your own decision on how you feel about buying and supporting the game. So this is where we lead to the conclusion that at the end of the day, it is up to you to play the game if you want to, but it's not up to others to judge you. Just be careful of the consequences of buying said games.
Exactly. I think we could talk about this for another 2 hours. We've already talked about it for about an hour now, so we could keep going. I have so much more I could say, but what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. It really is a fascinating subject. It's something we could, as I said, we could talk about this all day. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we move on to our final segment of the show?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'd like to talk about that, because we thought it's going to be 2 hours, but now we just already got down to the last segment. And this is a new feature where from every week, we need to keep up with the off-topic discussions because at the moment, outside of the box episodes are getting more popular than the podcast episodes, but it depends whether it's the length or the fact we're talking about other subjects. So, every week, I ask you, Potato Chief, one last question. Think of it as a Ready Times interview where you interview a celebrity and then you give them one last question that is like is huge, ridiculous, or anything like that. So in this feature, I ask you one final question, and it is seldom related to what we're talking about. So let's begin.
All right. Let's go. I'm ready. Question time. Do, 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 do. I'm just thinking, you know, like a master.
Yeah. I was thinking of the do 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 do. Well, anyway, let's move on to it. Now, my first question for Chief, it may be influenced by Twitter in the later episodes depending on the theme, but now I get to ask the questions. So, for this question, let's go on with it. It's got a bit too long. Another company...
I'm ready.
Yeah. Another company that's been tied to controversy is Rooster Teeth. Back in October of last year, many people have shared accounts where they have suffered workplace abuse and has dealt with a lot of like hateful slurs in the workplace as well. And it's turned into a huge snowball where everyone is now criticizing Rooster Teeth for what they did to them. And even one of these people who has an idea for Nomad of Nowhere, who apparently they tried to get the show off the ground, but it did not happen, and couldn't get the rights back to it, which means he has to get used to the fact he lost the franchise of Nomad of Nowhere. And now Rooster Teeth at the moment is running the podcast network, and the biggest show of Rooster Teeth animation is RWBY 49, which is now coming out on Crunchyroll, which just released last Saturday. But the controversy still stands, and it's affecting people's enjoyment of the whole franchises by Rooster Teeth. Especially with Genlock has been involved in a lot of controversy many years ago, which many people don't seem to realise that. So, I know it's a bit worded there, but the question I have for you, Potato Chief, is what is your honest opinion on the future of Rooster Teeth and their show, RWBY?
Okay. Honestly, we seem to go through this every week. I don't care about RWBY or have any interest in RWBY whatsoever. It sounds like it's going down in flames. I mean, that sounds about right. I used to like Rooster Teeth a lot, and then you had the stuff with Ryan Haywood, and that was horrible. And then you had the stuff with Matt Bragg, and that's horrible. And then you had the stuff with Adam Kovic, and that's horrible. And then, like, Bernie Burns left, and sold it, and I don't know. I used to really like Rooster Teeth, and I've really not watched Rooster Teeth in a while now. I've kind of really got off it. You know, I'll still watch the occasional thing. Like I was watching, was it? I can't remember his surname now, but Michael Mogar playing Metroid Prime.
Michael Jones.
Michael Jones, yeah. I was thinking Tuggy, but that's his wife's old surname. Anyway.
Lindsay Jones.
Lindsay and Michael, yeah. So I'll sometimes watch their stuff on like Let's Play and stuff, but I haven't really watched much Rooster Teeth in years. I used to really like Rooster Teeth back in the day, but then there's so many controversies that it's like, yeah, it kind of put me off watching them really. Like I used to like all the stuff that Ryan Haywood used to find him really funny, and now he's gone, and because of for a good reason, because he's a controversial person. And then, and there's a lot of people on there that have gone. A lot of people have left, and it's changed a lot. And I'm not really interested in RWBY whatsoever. As I said multiple times on this show, I've not really watched RWBY since season 3. And I wasn't super into it when I did watch it the first time. I feel like it's not my cup of tea. It feels like it wants to be a Japanese anime, but it's not a Japanese anime. It's American, and it's not. it's not got the charm of a Japanese anime. In my personal opinion, I'm not super into it. It's like, I used to watch Naruto and stuff back in the day, but I haven't really watched much anime since years. So and RWBY's like, nah, not interested really. So
Sounds as if
to
you're
answer your
not really
question,
into.
to answer
Yes.
your question, I don't really care. It's probably going to be gone. From what you've told me, because you seem to be keeping me up to date, it sounds like it's going to be going off. Like people seem to have lost interest in it. So yeah, once you lost the fans, that's it. Really, you're not going to get it back. So yeah, it seems like they've lost the fan base. They're interested in it. So I think it's going to not last too much longer. Personally.
Sorry, I don't really mean to like interrupt you because I know it's supposed to be your views and like Jerry Springer, final say on this thing. But for me, I don't really have a lot of hopes for the future for both of them because, well, two things. RWBY is already like getting noticed by fans and people are like falling over it and like watching it, even though they're a bit disappointed about the the Crunchyroll exclusivity, but it's pretty much good for some. But I think depending on the success of RWBY Volume 9 and the Justice League crossover, like you've seen the trailer for it, is where like Superman and Batman work with RWBY heroes. I mean, that's something quite interesting, isn't it?
Not really.
Well, but it really depends on like how this one and Volume 9 have performed, and it just really determines if RWBY is going to get a Volume 10 or not. But I'm not that enthusiastic about it. I used to follow it a lot, but I just think there's too much controversy that kind of brings up the negatives of the show, so I just don't really think it's going to like last forever. It's a bit of a shame, really.
No.
But as for the Rooster Teeth, I like to see them as a skeleton crew where they used to be huge, but the workplace that they have a lot of controversies in order to get high up in the ranks. And now it's just like they cut down a lot of animation projects. They didn't do a lot of the fun stuff anymore. And they got a lot of controversial people on board, which means it kind of gets shimmered down to just a podcast network. And I feel it's what they're going to be remembered as, really.
I also forgot to mention that it's not been the same since Monty's passing as well. I forgot to mention that as well because he was a huge part of the RWBY and stuff, and ever since he passed, it's not been the same. That's also important to mention.
Yeah, I think I would like to address this because I think fans are assuming this if people are getting it wrong whenever they bring up about Monty's passing and affecting the whole thing. Two things that Monty has been working with Carey and Miles from the very get-go, so Carey and Miles are still continuing the show after his passing. It was actually Shane's letter that talks about his views and how the ideas have been changed based on Rooster Teeth. And I feel this one is what led to the divide between the fans and the fan base, which leads to haters and the fans, and it turns into a more heated argument. And yet there are still people who are outside the fandom still believes in a lot of like mistruths that they still believe in unless they have to talk to the fans who are actually correct on all those things. Like, no, don't say that Monty's Demon is as if you know him by wishes, because that's disrespectful. And it is still disrespectful if you said about Monty is wish by best wish. I don't know, because he's got really good friends who still support him, and Rooster Teeth, they still care about the franchise and they are determined to keep going with it. And also with like Kerry and Miles, I know there's some like a lot of bad stuff to said about them, but they've been through this process and even been working with Monty since the show began. And I think there's a lot of criticisms that ends up making this a lot of misinformation, that even the creators have been trying so much to convince people that what they said is not true. And yet some of this misinformation is even brought over to the people outside the fandom as well. So this is just like gone really out of hand. And I just feel that the divide between the fans and everyone else, it just seems like a bit of a theme. So, to be honest, like, I really respect RWBY for running the show, and I'm glad they're doing everything to support Monty, even his passing. Even though they're just distancing away from the creators they work on the later volumes, like Game of Thrones. But
Yeah.
a lot of the arguments, some of them are ridiculous, are not good. But I think the trouble is that the show hasn't been hasn't been very consistent in how they deal with the direction, and I feel as if they're overscoped when it comes to it. So, sorry, I've been talking for about almost 2 hours, but the truth is that I still recommend people to watch the show if they haven't, and check out the first one, see what they think. But the show isn't that huge, and unlike what fans are saying, it's still like a niche, and it's not known by everyone, and it's not even gone to the top of the most popular lists on Crunchyroll.
No. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know a lot more about it than I do, to be perfectly honest. So I'll let you stick with that one. So yeah, I mean, we've been going for nearly 2 hours now. Maybe we should start trying to wrap up, if that's all right. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. It's been a bit of a controversial episode. Not really. We talked about some controversial stuff, but I think we're quite level-headed about it. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Are you interested in playing Atomic Heart or Hogwarts Legacy? Are you boycotting either of those games? Is there anything you are boycotting, like products or games or anything? Let us know. Really fascinated to see. Are you a big fan of RWBY? Because I'm not really, but if you are, let us know in the comments below. And I'm sure Alice would love to hear from you.
I'm not that 100% interested in it.
But yeah, that's it for this week. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you've listened to the whole like hour and a half, 2 hours, we really appreciate it. And please subscribe if you haven't. And thank you guys for watching. And until next time, too sweet.
And well, actually, you didn't ask me what I say about it, so I'd like to also state that I know we made an episode about 343, and we made some outlandish points. So just in case if anyone like goes to the comments and say about those kind of things, that we should put the disclaimer in the description that we'll be talking about a lot of controversies, and that includes transphobia. So just don't try to be too offended when you hear those points, because we're trying to understand as much as we can about it. So if there are points that we got wrong, or where we said some stuff that didn't work out, then please do not hesitate to let us know in the comments. Be polite and be nice about it. And if you like point out if there's anything wrong we said, then we will do our best to learn about it, because we're not always experts on this. Just like for the Metro Prime video, like we're not always going to have a huge book of the things that is well researched. Like we're not doing the thesis.
True.
All we're doing is just like subjective opinions over all of this, which means we don't have to be fully objective about it. But if you want to like correct us on any objective stuff we said, then please let us know in the comments, and just please be respectful to us too, because the last thing we want is having a huge argument over what we saying and said all those things, because all I want people is to understand and how it's important to keep the people's well-being, and we do not really want to have a huge fight on our hands because at the end of the day it's just like we don't really want to be attacked because we speak up about those kind of things. We're doing this so that we can get everyone to understand, and we're not trying to go against other people's opinions about it. We're just like stating what is supposed to be the truth, or what we're supposed to how we feel, and it's something that we're not meant to be challenged on it. So I think that's about it.
For sure. So pretty much everything you just said. Let us know what you think in the comments below. As I said, we don't claim to know everything, but we try to be as knowledgeable as we can be when it comes to stuff like this. But obviously, if we've missed anything, let us know in the comments below. That's really important. We'd love to hear from you guys. I'll probably end up wrapping up the video now because my dog's decided to wake up, so she's probably going to knock the microphone out again if we don't. We better hurry. Thank you guys for watching. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, no, that's alright. That's what I just basically said, so...
Alright, well, thank you guys for watching, and until next time, too sweet.
Bye!
Guys. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the X Marks the Box podcast. Follow us at X Marks Box on Twitter, or X Marks the Box on YouTube, and follow us on all audio podcast services. Thanks for listening.